you ready?
Hit me.
Welcome to the 027figures.com podcast, where small business owners receive proven strategies, suggestions, and supercharged ideas to take your business from 0 to 7 figures in revenue.
Here we go. Green light, full power. You son, I got 99.
Hey, welcome to the 0to7figures.com podcast, where we give small business owners proven strategies, suggestions, and supercharged ideas to take you from 0 to 7 figures in revenue. I'm Brian Post with my co-host and partner in success,
Abe Ruiz.
and welcome to another episode. We just ripped off a little Jay-Z there.
That's how you go from 7 to 0 real quick. Jay-Z getting involved in our economy, man. How's your day going, brother? Everything good?
Hey, man, I'm rocking and rolling. Been up early,
Yes.
knocking out some things, learning some good things. You know, I was thinking about one of the things I am enjoying about you and I doing this is that it re-stimulates my hunger for learning. And a thing I made a note of is that, you know, I've always been an avid book reader, audio listener, you know, watching, just assimilating as much as I can. And I think that that's one of the things as business owners that we have a tendency to kind of move away from when we get started and we get mired into the business and have some success. We kind of move away from some of that stuff. So
and to that point, I was actually just talking to somebody and they asked me what I was reading informationally when I'm talking, what are we using on the podcast? And I said, you know, funny thing is I use a lot of my life experience. That's where I pull a lot of my information from. But, you know, you're right. You do tend to fall away from that stuff. And it's important to continue to educate yourself, because if we just rely on what we know, we go nowhere.
Well, sometimes it's just a matter of reinforcement.
Right.
I mean, a lot of this stuff I've heard 100 times over the years, but it's just like remembering that little nugget. Oh yeah. And especially if that's a nugget that now it may be automatic for me to do,
right?
But I don't even remember it. Right. And so if I can share it with our audience and that can be that light bulb for them, then that's cool. Yeah,
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So we had some things we wanted to go over today. One of the things we want to talk about is currently we're all dealing with the same thing. It's the COVID-19. We're dealing with lockdown, you know, the stay-at-home orders and the social distancing, and talking about, is this the environment that you want to start a new business in?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think it's a big question, you know, and I think me and you agree that, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You want to start a new business.
Well, there's no reason not to. You can't let the times dictate your passion, your hunger, your goals, your dreams.
Right.
If you've got a dream or goal to start a business, then freaking do it. Don't let anything determine
absolutely
whether you start it or not start it.
And that is one thing that me and Brian have very much in common, is that there has not been anything that's gotten in our way when we wanted to get something done. And that's actually part of our kindred. That's how our friendship kind of struck up, is we start talking about these things. And it's a big deal is to go after what you want. Yeah. And it's as simple as that. And that's most of the time. I mean, we can speak directly into the COVID is the fear. Mm-hmm. You know, we talk about the biological effects of a pandemic. We don't want to talk too much about the pandemic, but in reference to that is how the biological effects, how quickly it spreads, affects our psychology, and how we decide, oh, I can't do that right now. This is not the time to do it. People aren't going to buy anything from me. They're not going to listen to me. Everybody's doing the same thing right now. And if you keep buying into that attitude, and that's what, you know, you're not going to develop your business the way you need to develop it.
Well, and that's the viral power of fear. The biggest issue with this whole COVID-19 pandemic thing has not been the virus itself.
Correct.
It's been the virus of fear. You know, people running out and losing their minds, you know, not thinking clearly. In fact, one of the things I cite a lot to the families that I work with is Joseph Ledoux is a New York University neuroscientist. He wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence. And in that book, he says, in times of stress, our thinking becomes confused and distorted, and our short-term memory is suppressed. So when we're stressed out, we're not thinking clearly, and we forget. And I think that that is so important for small business operators to remember, that if you're stressed out, you're not thinking clearly. If you're running in fear, you can't even remember the things that you did to have success.
Right. And that's absolutely true. And there's a lot of evidence of that right now in our economy. I mean, it's a direct reflection of our reaction to whether it's the way the media spins it out or just what we see looking out our front window.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for instance, the other day I was on my phone it was Easter Sunday, and I was trying to see what the traffic looked like. Because normally going north towards Oklahoma City, it's just bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
I counted 7 cars on 35 in 3 different spots. There was nobody out. And that kind of thing actually feeds into the fear. People say there's nobody out, so they're freaking out. It's like, well, you know why nobody's out? Because they're all watching it just like I was. But I wasn't doing it out of fear. I was doing it out of curiosity because we were doing Easter already. I wasn't going anywhere. But it's funny how people buy into that stuff. And even coming down to simple things like essentials, when it comes down like the toilet paper run. That's the same thing that happens to the banks in the stock market. People buy into the fear, and the next thing you know, they're cashing in their stocks. You know, they're taking money out of the bank and putting it inside a safe somewhere, or digging a hole in the ground and putting it in a coffee can. It's ridiculous. It's shameful.
It's how the micro, our biology, expands to the macro, our psychology, and then our economy.
Right.
So it just spreads, and you know, it can have a deafening effect on everything.
Right. So I was looking up a few things, and some of the ways people are going when you're talking about starting a new business. One of the big ones, if you want to talk about the medical field, talking about digital.
So funny story about that. And I think I had shared with you, just like 2 weeks before all this pandemic stuff came about, I was looking at buying a medical clinic in another state. So I told you, maybe I'll come connect with you while I'm coming through. And I made the guy an offer, and he declined it. You know, he wanted some other things. And I'm like, well, I'll come up. I'm going to be in town. I'll come over. We'll meet face to face. By the time I got there, within that 2-week span of time, all this stuff had happened.
Right.
And completely changed everything. Because it was a cosmetics business. So cosmetics, you got to come in. So he had already cut out probably 50% of his cosmetics. It was taking a nosedive, and he started doing telemedicine. Well, I mean, that's what a lot of, in the medical field, that's what a lot of docs are going to right now. It's telemedicine. But before this pandemic, every medical licensing board in the U.S. had all these funny rules and regulations, because that's something I tried to get into before too, is telemedicine. They had these rules and regulations, and then this comes along, and it's like everyone can do telemedicine.
That's right, and it's amazing, because it just to kind of give a reference point for that is my sister had started going to a group therapy, and I hope she doesn't get upset by me revealing that. But I mean, everybody needs therapy. Honestly, we all need somebody to talk to. And if I talk to him, he may say something to somebody, you know. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Loose lips sink ships. But anyway, so she started doing that, and then they had somebody that got sick in the group. And so less than 3 days later, they had the whole thing up and running where they were having group sessions from home. And what that's done for the medical community, especially with people mental issues, we'll say issues, their apprehension to go to a group, their apprehension to go see a doctor. Now they have the ability to be comfortable at home and be able to get out and talk about the things they need to talk about. So those are the opportunities that come along in something like this, where something's developed out of a pandemic or a crisis. And I think that's amazing, because there's some people that would never get help.
Yeah, that's true. And the reality is that from a mental health perspective, with my background, I've been online for 20 years.
Right.
And so for me to start doing things virtually, that's nothing different than I was already doing. But I know there are a lot of clinicians who are so used to just doing things face to face, they completely froze up.
Well, you know, that's funny though, because it's like, for me, we talked about this last time. The digital world is something I have almost run from, because there are some complexities to it. at least from my point of view,
Yeah.
that I didn't want to invest my emotionals and my mental abilities on. So now it's almost, you don't have a choice. And this is what we're talking about. Sometimes you're gonna have to adjust. You're gonna have to pivot if you want to continue to have success in your business.
There's a huge opportunity out there if we can just get over that initial fear to learn something new and doing something new.
Right.
And I feel like the risk of losing a few bucks, because that's really all it is. It's the risk of losing a few bucks. And I feel like any small business owner / entrepreneur, if you're afraid of failure, you'll never be successful anyway.
Right.
So just be prepared and don't even look at it as losing. Say, I'm going to invest $500 and I'm going to learn Facebook, because there's all you got to do is, read YouTube,
right?
Go to pull up YouTube videos and then start doing it. And
see
what happens.
It's all at our fingers. And that is the amazing part. That is the amazing part about today. If you look back just when probably me and you were just starting to get into business, when cell phones weren't even a thing. It was barely. If you had a cell phone, you had money, because it costs a lot of money. You only got 750 minutes a month, and it cost you about $1 a minute. Yeah. It was very expensive. Yeah. And so it's amazing if you can't find a way to start your business. In my opinion, you're not trying hard enough. You're not looking hard enough, because there are so many avenues.
You're not that motivated.
There you go. Motivation.
You're not that motivated, because and I think that also, Abe, goes back to, it's really important for people to have a goal for what they want to accomplish and what they want to do. If you don't have a goal that's significant, then the motivation's not going to be there. It's going to be too easy to just foo-foo it and move on. But
right.
You're absolutely right. If you can't figure out a way to get started, it's just because you're not focused deep enough, hard enough. You're not motivated enough. You're not inspired enough.
Well, I mean, every day when you wake up, it's similar to marriage. When you wake up, you can love your wife more than anything in the world, but when you wake up, you still have to tell yourself, I love this woman, because there are some variables about every person that you have to get past. And it's the same thing with business. You have to wake up in the morning and tell yourself what you're doing. Putting a schedule together before you wake up, having your schedule ready before the week begins is key. If you go into the week not knowing what's going to happen and you just hope that everything falls into place, it might, but not very often.
Most likely it's not.
It's probably not going to. And so
you have too many small flames sparks are going to become flames.
And that's where like a mastermind group comes into play, Brian, is being able to have that level of accountability with people that, have the same struggles, but also have the same goals and same, I don't like to call it assertion as opposed to aggression, but I'm a fairly assertive person when it comes to business. If I want something to get done, I will figure out a way to get it done. And even if I don't know what I'm doing,
mindset. That's a mindset.
Because I would not by any stretch of the imagination call myself the most intellectual person on earth. Top 5, yes, but not the most. But it's that's the thing. It's like I don't let anything like that stop me from going where I want to go.
Hey, let's talk about this concept of pivoting, because this is a new it's the new buzzword in business. And the whole pandemic thing has kind of forced it to the front. But I think every business owner needs to always be thinking about it, especially in those initial stages of business, because you might go in thinking you're going to do one thing and it not work out, and you might have an opportunity to do something different. But my personal opinion, though, is that a restaurant, I don't want to just go back to a restaurant or whatever, because I think it all ties together. It's all the same. It's like Dan Kennedy says, every business is the same.
Right.
But I don't think a restaurant just deciding to do curbside or delivery, that's not pivoting. A pivot is when a brewery can no longer serve patrons that come up to the bar, and all of a sudden they decide to re-engineer everything and start creating hand sanitizer. That's a fucking pivot.
Yeah.
Like that's serious business. You know, that's serious creativity.
It is, because not only are they fulfilling a need for the public, they're fulfilling a need for their business, because in order to maintain the level of income and the lifestyle that they've created, is that they're going to have to sell something. And if they can't,
and the thing is you got to be open.
That is, you're absolutely right. You have to be open to it. And this is, a prime example of what he's talking about is what we're doing right now. This is a pivot for me. Coming into and start doing podcasts and doing YouTube videos is a huge pivot for me, because I know that it's not a direct source for business, but it's an indirect source for business. It's branding. I'm getting out there and I'm trying to make some things happen. My watch is going off, man. It's driving me nuts. Somebody's at my front door, apparently. But yeah, pivoting is essential. And you're right. Curbside service is just, that's surviving. Is what
it is. It's surviving. I think that's my point, is I really want small business owners and entrepreneurs to think about, the difference between survival and pivoting. Everyone may not need to pivot.
Right.
You may need to just survive and get creative enough to survive through this next wave of this economy. And it reminded me back in 2008 during the mortgage crisis, I actually started another business. I started a supplement company during that time that I went on to sell for $500,000. So I know that you can thrive in this economy, but you got to get creative and you got to be willing to do things different than what you've been doing.
Absolutely. One of the things that my company's done, and I haven't got creative in the sense that I haven't gotten away from roofing, because honestly, my business hasn't waned. It is more of a commodity based business. It's not something, roofs aren't going away. If there's a leak, it still has to be repaired. So that hasn't changed, but the marketing for me is where I've had to pivot. So the idea of how do I get the client to me is completely different. I can't go into an office. I can't talk to my realtors face to face. I can't take them to lunch. I can't do any of the normal things that I would do to try to gain rapport with that person.
See, I would say that's where you've had to get more creative, not necessarily to pivot. You've got more creative, and this market has forced you into creativity.
For sure.
To change your business.
Right. And it's been successful. The things that I've done have been very successful, and people are taking note of it, because it's like, why is this roofer having me subscribe to this? Why is he talking about this? It's like, you know what? Because if I sat there and talked to you about shingles all day, I don't think you would tune in next week. But no, I think those are all good points. Pivoting is important, and I like being able to define the difference between pivoting and surviving. That is the big difference. One of the other things you want to talk about is how do you find the opportunity inside of a pandemic or inside of a downturn economy or of a crisis? Where do you find the opportunity? And that can go back to what your statement earlier, talking about if you're a bar and you can't serve alcohol to people, start making hand sanitizer. That's an opportunity that you would never, ever, ever thought to do. But it is a need that's out there, and somebody has to fulfill that need. And there's an opportunity there for somebody.
Well, and again, it all goes back to creativity. And I feel like one of the things that's really important when it comes to sparking creativity is taking the time to get your mind quiet and to really focus on what it is that you're doing. And one of my mentors talks about the difference between working in your business versus working on your business. So this economy, this time frame gives us the opportunity to really work on our businesses, because we do have more time. No one's doing it the same way they were doing it. So you got more time. Are you taking the time to listen, read, and learn, and look for ideas, look for little cues, look for little opportunities that you would have missed otherwise?
Right. And that's exactly right. And I'll reference this one more time, and I hate to keep going back to it, but when it comes down to like the digital marketing and the social media, for me, I never took the time to do that because what I was doing was successful. Yeah. I didn't take the time when I was busy, and I actually didn't have time to sit down and do this, if I'm being quite honest with you. And so you're right. This has given me a completely different opportunity to reach out to a different marketplace that I wouldn't normally tap into. And it's helping me evolve the business. And that's a big deal. And so I am taking the opportunity to actually make something out of it, as opposed to sitting here waiting for it to be over with.
It's fantastic. And this is also doing a podcast is what they call in social media marketing, online marketing, long tail marketing. This is always going to be here. So it's never going to go away. So you do this once, and NTX Roofing is going to have a marketing platform that it's going to, potentially reach people for years. So I think it's fantastic you took the initiative to do it. What I will say, though, is there's nothing wrong with coming back and saying you're taking the time now to learn some social media avenues where you didn't before, because everyone's got to do it.
That is 100% true, man. And like I said, I was running from it. And at the end of the day, how much business did I pass up? Not taking advantage of a situation that's right in front of me.
Definitely.
And, and I always made the excuse because of Facebook. I mean, let's talk about Facebook. Facebook alone, the negative energy that comes from Facebook. That's the reason I avoided it. But
sure.
Use it for the right purposes. My business right now, I have somebody running my marketing and dropping campaigns for me constantly, and it's been successful. I've been getting a lot of feedback from it. But let's talk about also what is one thing, Brian, we were talking about this earlier. What is one thing that you absolutely must do?
Oh, it's really hard for me anymore to say that there's the absolute must, but one of the things that I say to people all the time is you must be collecting emails. You have to collect emails because your database is your gold. I mean, your money is in your database. And if you're not collecting emails and now phone numbers, because you have the ability to do text messaging or text platforms that are beautiful also. But if you're not capturing a phone number and an email, you're afraid to ask, then you are watching money walk out the door. And I feel like that's one thing, and I've been saying that for years. You got to capture emails.
And I've had sales guys not even capture the last name. Okay. And that's very confusing to me. I was like, what information do you have about the person other than, they need a roof? And
it's negligence.
And it is. And it's like they want to they're so worried about the next person they're going to talk to, they forget about who's standing in front of them. And that's
right.
Another thing. You got to concentrate on the person standing in front of you. Take care of that customer. And that's
the difference between working on the surface versus going deep.
Yeah, deep. You're right. You're right about that.
Mining deep.
Mining deep. Let's see. I think that's
one of the things I want to say, Abe, is that you mentioned that you didn't have time to do something like this before, but what people don't realize is you literally now on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, you can pick up your phone and you can push live and you can start freaking yapping your lips.
Live is one of the best tools that's come out in a long time.
While you're driving.
Yeah, and that's one of my sales guys would do that. He would go out in the field and he would do a live video and talk to you while he's walking, and that's a huge thing. And that's, once again, that's me having to adjust to modern technology. And I'm here, baby. I've arrived.
Make the adjustment.
That's it. You say, so talking about a small business jet fuel marketing tip was the Facebook Live. And so guys, if you've not done it, jump on. It's easy. It's simple. Guys, that's another episode of 0to7figures.com podcast. Please smash the like button. And guys, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you guys. We want feedback. We want to know what you guys are thinking, what you want to hear about. That's why we're here. And we're going to bring on other pros too that are going to help talk to you guys about some of the questions that you have. So just tune in next time, guys. Glad you were here.
Awesome.
All right. Talk to you later.
Wait, hang on. Let's cue the music.
Cue the music, baby. See you in court, Jay-Z.
This concludes another episode of the 0to7figures.com podcast. Please smash that like button and leave your feedback and suggestions. We would love to hear from you. And if you're a small business owner wanting to hit 7 figures in the next year, click the link below to learn more about the 0to7figures.com mastermind.